Welcome, everybody, into the ESPN FC studios for today's Extra Time. We've got a well-dressed Frank Leboeuf joining us from abroad. Stevie, Kasey here to take your questions. Let's dive right into them. First one from Amin. For Stevie, Arsenal scored 21 goals in the last 5 Premier League games. Do they still need a striker to win the league? That's something we didn't talk about in the show.
Yes.
Really? 21 goals in 5 games?
Well, what were we saying before Christmas?
All right, but there's been a month and a half since Christmas.
Well, again,
you've got to
there's a lot of things that go into it, though.
Okay.
It's not that straightforward.
Right.
Now, look at you. During the show, we put up the last 5 games. Now, the tough game they had in amongst that 5 was Liverpool. The rest, you're like, if you want to win the title, you've got to win these games against these teams.
But other teams aren't winning 5 and 6.
The 4 teams that are down the bottom of the league.
Right, but other teams aren't pumping those
struggling.
teams 5, 6.
Yeah, but it's immaterial.
It's nice. It's nice that when you
Bonus.
It's that you can go into a game like today and know that by the end you've already won the game. But yeah, it's still opponents that if you're going to be in the title race, you should be beating, and they're doing it. But again, we talked about the experience of this Arsenal team over the last 10, 15 years, and they need to prove that this group of players can get over the finish line.
Frank, what do you think? Do Arsenal need a striker? I mean, the window's closed, but...
Yes, and the best example is City. Remember, for some years they had no strikers, and they kept on winning the title. But getting Haaland made them better. And I really think that if they have a, I don't know, I would say an Osimhen, maybe a Tony, somebody who can score like 15, 20 goals, it's always a plus. It's always a plus. If you keep the chemistry between the players and the fact that some others can score, it's definitely a plus.
If Leverkusen were in the Champions League, would they be contenders to win it all? What do you think?
Win it all.
Win it all.
What does that mean?
Win the Champions League. If they were in it, would you think they would be contenders, one of the favorites to win it all?
I think you got to be realistic. This time next year, you probably won't recognise this team.
Okay, I'm talking about this year. This year's Bayer Leverkusen. If they were in it this year, would they be contenders?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, you don't go 32 games unbeaten.
Would be ahead of them.
Well, listen, if they were playing Man City tomorrow, if they were playing Real Madrid tomorrow,
Right, that's 2.
I would have them as favourites against Leverkusen.
I put them right in
That
that
doesn't
same.
mean the Leverkusen
We had this
doesn't win.
conversation yesterday with Inter.
Yeah.
And I put them kind of in the same conversation as Inter.
Arsenal in that conversation, too?
Agreed. Yep.
All right, next question comes from Danny Mack, but it's for Stevie. Have you ever played with a teammate who was getting dog's abuse off his own fans, and how were they able to silence the boo boys? What is dog's abuse? Just very loud abuse?
Yeah, it's just a lot.
Okay, I didn't want Peter to
Bleep,
call.
bleep, 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 a lot of bleeps.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember his name. I went on loan. The last season was at Sheffield Wednesday. I went on loan for the last 4 months of the season to West Brom. And we had a wee guy in midfield, and he was having one of those days where everything he touched just went wrong. And people started getting on him. And what he did was, he completely turned the whole thing around. He did something that was not bad, because he was having one of those days.
Right.
What he did was, as soon as he did it, there was some sort of sarcastic applause. So he jumped on the ground and started doing push-ups. Did like 15 of those push-ups. And the whole place just busted out laughing. And after that, every time we went near him, they were all cheering and way and whoa. What a turnaround. Dogs abuse to everybody cheering for you, just like that. Brilliant.
Frank, you ever have a teammate that got booed by their own fans?
Now that I recalled, it can happen in one game where you have a bad game, and because you're a striker, you missed chances, or you're a defender, you maybe score 2 own goals, that you can be booed. But it can happen one game. But I never had that experience that the guy was really abused by our own fans, for a couple of games. I never had that bad time for teammates, fortunately.
Kasey?
I had a teammate at Millwall who was a former Palace player. And so it was a situation that I think is maybe unique to Millwall.
Oh, Millwall was just unique. You just put Millwall and unique in the same sentence.
And so this player who just generally kind of got abuse from the Millwall fans just because he was an ex-Palace player. But I remember he scores a goal. Scores a very good goal. The fans cheer the goal. But then when it goes over the loudspeaker and the goal scorer was, they booed him.
I was telling him last week about Mark Bright getting in his car and everybody bouncing it.
Yeah.
He played for Millwall.
I mean, Don
And Palace.
has told the story, right? When he went to Millwall, the fans got after him as well.
It's another
Right,
level.
so,
It's
yeah.
truly another level.
They never got after you, did they?
I had a very good relationship
Yeah, I
with
bet
the
you
Millwall
did.
fans.
For Kasey, another 2 goals for Josh Sargeant today. Where does he rank on your list of U.S. strikers at the moment, and could it be time for the U.S. to play with 2 up top?
Yeah, I have no problem. I think if you play with 1 or 3 up front, depending on how much you have of the ball, right? You're very dependent on the winger on the opposite side has to really tuck in and be a goal-scoring threat. You know, I mean, if we're looking at that Leverkusen game and Frimpong, who's the right-sided player, was able to get in and be a threat scoring goals. So I have no. I think particularly in games where the U.S. is going to dominate, like in a Gold Cup against maybe some lesser. Yes, get a second strike in there, get more action up there, and Josh Sargeant is proving now if he can stay fit. Keep that form going. And look, we all knew there was a ton of talent there. There's no question about that. But there's a point where, again, you just have to do it week in and week out. And let's see if he can stay fit enough to do that.
It's also about the competition, right? Balogun has been a little bit ice cold of late. Pepe scores, but he doesn't play a lot, so.
Well, there's no question we're waiting for the next striker to emerge. We've had some young players that have shown moments, but they've yet to really establish themselves. And that's why I was all for Josh staying in the championship, staying at Norwich, and scoring goals. And then if you are good enough, you'll get the opportunity at the top flight.
Next question is a direct shot at my athletic ego. Who would win a game of 11 50-year-old Stevies against 11 peak Sebs?
Oh, geez, that's not. You were okay at 50, right? You weren't too banged up.
Are you still playing for the Boston Bulldogs or what? When did you stop playing for the Boston Bulldogs? That's when you.
Well,
39, I think.
Okay, so 11 years after you last were a
Okay.
professional, what kind of shape were you in?
but I'm going to bring something in, Stevie, that you said yesterday. You kind of knew it was time when you were making tackles that you shouldn't have been making. So here's what I'm going to say. 11 of those Stevies against
making 11 of those tackles.
against the tackles against 11 Sebs. It's over.
Yeah, it might end up 11 v 8 or 9, but still, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have no chance.
I mean, I would disagree. Peak Seb at 21, 22, coming out of college, lean and mean.
Peak Seb broken in half.
Run all day, brother. I could run all day, brother.
Seb on one leg.
Yeah. You just got broken in half.
I mean, the disrespect here is.
I mean, you can run all day, that's one thing, but can you control a bag of cement?
I would take 11 today Sebs against
always
11 50-year-old Stevies.
Can you control a bag of cement, though?
I can control whatever you want, Steven.
Oh, well.
You've never seen me, the string puller, the maestro in midfield. I can't even say with a straight face. All right, last one here. Stevie, are the injuries eventually going to catch up and derail Liverpool's chances at the title, or do you think they have a deep enough squad to withstand the injuries?
Well, that's a tough one because
Allison, we don't know yet. What did they say in 3 weeks?
I think I said 2 or 3 weeks ago
Yeah.
that I've actually not been giving enough to Liverpool squad players. At the start of the season, I didn't think Liverpool's squad was deep enough.
But wasn't Klopp saying that a lot too? That he was trying
he
to
kinda was,
strengthen
but-
the squad?
But you don't sit top of the league in February, and you haven't been you don't compete at the top of the league for the whole season, and you think of the injuries they've had for the whole season when your so-called French players actually have done a good job. And I don't think I gave them enough credit for that. I think the only thing that really would derail them is more injuries. But I think the squad absolutely is deep enough.
And today there wasn't enough.
Yeah, because they've come in. You know, Keller is in goal. Keller's come in and done well. Quansah's been solid. He's done pretty well. Curtis Jones seems to have taken another step forward. You know, Elliott's come in and done well. So I mean, I'm now up to like 4 and 5 names.
Bradley.
Yeah,
Bradley came into
Connor
there right
Bradley.
back. Yep.
So all of a sudden, they've kind of developed sneakily, quietly, quite a solid squad with an exceptional starting 11.
Frank, what do you think? Is Liverpool's squad deep enough to overcome these injuries and make that push for the Premier League?
Oh yeah. And I'm very positive about that because, you know, when Salah left to go to the AFCON, you know, we wonder, you know, how they're going to score goals. You know, Nunez wasn't good enough. What about Jota? Those two guys were absolutely fantastic and did the job until Salah came back today. And again, we talked about Trent Alexander-Arnold, but the young Bradley, and today he played exactly like Klopp wants TAA to play, and that was a copy of it, and he was very good at it. So, you know, while Robertson was injured, somebody was playing on the left side, and he went well. Everybody seems to be interchangeable at Liverpool and does the job. So I'm not worried. Of course, if you have 5 other injuries, it's going to start being very difficult for them. But they still can cope. You know, Salah is back, so if Jota is injured, you can deal with that. I don't think Nunez is going to be injured for a while. And the others are going to come back. And meanwhile, some players, most players are doing the job very well.
You agree, Kasey?
Yep.
They can cope?
I do. I think they cope. Now again, I agree with Frankie that there is a preface on, I don't think they can afford many more injuries.
Right,
yeah. And if the injuries that they have now aren't kind of season-ending, that they're going to be back in a week or two, I think they'll cope well.
Hope for good news on Diogo Jota, but it did not look good there for one of Liverpool's most effective and most fun players to watch as well. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Extra Time. Thanks to you for sending in your questions. Thanks to Frank, Kasey, and Stevie as well, as always, for the laughs. And we'll see you back here in the studio for tomorrow's edition of ESPN FC. Don't miss it. Plenty of football to discuss.